Hey guys, welcome to episode 9 of the Two Minds, One podcast. I'm Nathan.
I'm Raymond.
And Raymond, today I want to talk to you about something I've been doing a little research in. For those of you who've been watching with us for a while, you know that me and Raymond ran a half marathon at Glacier National. And in doing so, it got me intrigued into running and endurance races as a sport.
It wasn't the only half marathon. We also did Yosemite.
Yeah. In 2021, we did Yosemite as well, right? But I've been doing some more research, and I've been thinking that I know we have another half marathon coming up in the future that we're going to begin to train for.
Yeah, Zion.
We also want to complete a marathon, right? It's just a bucket list item goal.
Yeah, and then you added Ironman.
I want to be an Ironman.
So
for those of you who don't know what an Ironman is, let me make sure I get this straight. But an Ironman is an ultra long endurance race. It's, most people don't do Ironmans in their life. It's not something that most people do. It is what some people would call crazy person sport. For those of you, it's 3 long endurance events, essentially a triathlon, right? So 3 events back to back to back, right?
It is a triathlon.
It is a triathlon, yes.
An extra long one.
So traditionally in the triathlon, you'll have, for example, a half-mile swim, a 50-mile bike ride, and then a half marathon or something of that nature. An Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and then following that, a wonderful 26.2-mile marathon.
A full marathon.
Full marathon, all in the same day. So in total mileage that you're covering is 146.2 miles. Keep in mind that is covered over an 18-hour window span. So you have 18 hours of one day to do it. And I don't remember exactly what the statistic is, but I believe it's 1 in 3 1 in 3 that enter an Ironman don't complete the Ironman for various reasons: fatigue, injury.
1 in 3.
1 in 3.
So 2/3.
Yeah.
So the odds are in our favor.
Exactly, right? And so an Ironman is what I would consider, a lot of people consider to be the peak of ultra endurance athlete sports, right? Endurance sports.
Well, what about an ultra marathon?
Well, you're doing but you're doing more than that.
Yeah, but you're not. I don't know. You are doing more than that, but you're not doing it in the same.
You're doing it in a shorter time. Most 100-mile races are 24 to 28 hours.
Okay.
Time. 24 to 28 hours. You get 18 hours to complete 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and 26.2 mile run. 18 hours. And we all know how exhausting swimming is if you ever spent any time swimming in a pool.
Mm-hmm.
It is tiring to keep yourself afloat.
You gotta swim 2 miles, 2-some miles?
Yeah, it takes the average person that does an Ironman about an hour and 20, hour and a half. If you're unfit, it takes a person 2 hours. So it's about an hour per mile around there. Yeah. So, been doing research into that. Definitely something I want to accomplish in the life goal, because life's really short, and
you just want to do something that no one else has done.
No,
that very few people have done.
Yes, that is, but it's not because very few people have done it. It's because of the amount of work and dedication to do it. So you don't sign up for something like that because you just wanna get the medal, right? It's not enough, right? The mental fortitude required to complete it is not enough. The 8 to 10 to 12 months of training that you need to do is not enough. From the interviews I've been seeing, coaches, right, that coach people in Ironman, they tell them, look, if you're going to be training for an Ironman, you need to understand that you will be absent in your life. you will not be present for those fun moments. Friends, family, significant others, sometimes even work, gone. We're talking 2 to 3 training sessions a day on top of resting.
Like an athlete.
Yeah, you're essentially training.
You want to really complete it. You got to be as close to athlete form, physique, as possible, as you can get.
Yes. Right, and so we're talking 5 hours of training per day at the max, at the top end. It doesn't start off that way, right? Because you have to slowly, incrementally increase volume to that level, right? But yeah, so Ironman training, big thing, something I want to do later on. I said I want to complete it before 30. It gives me 5 years. It is also quite expensive to do.
You got plenty of time.
Quite expensive to do. It is not a cheaper sport to participate in because you do have to buy all of your gear in the sense of your tracksuit for your bike, your wetsuit for your swim, your shoes for your bike, your shoes for your run, your bike itself, and then on top of that, if you want better consistency, a lot of people that train also have the stationary bike, like a Zwift stationary bike.
Oh, you mean like something that you can train at home?
Yes, because sometimes you're not going to be able to do. It's 115 degrees outside. I'm sure you're not going to want to not going to want to bike ride 36 to 80 miles for your training session that day, while trying to keep your heart rate at a certain rate. So another thing I learned. This is not a recent thing that's been going around in the fitness industry, but a fairly new, right? So it's been going around, I'd say, for the last probably 20 years, right? The pro athletes really understanding doing this. It's zone training, right? So depending on who you ask, there's like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 zones of heart rate zones, right? And these zones just directly correlate to how fast your heart's beating and how much lactate your muscles are building. So for those of you that don't know, lactate in your muscles is that burning sensation, right? And so what happens is your muscle, as it works, the byproduct of generating the work and energy is this lactate acid. And this acid gets dissipated through your body at a certain rate. And so when it reaches a critical threshold is when you start feeling like that really bad pain, like that burn sensation, right? That means that your body is at almost full lactate capacity. And so what the zone training tries to do is to train in your zone. For a lot of them, it's zone 2, right? Which is anywhere from like 130 to like 145 beats per minute heart rate, right? You want to be training in that heart rate, which is the area where your body is producing lactate, right? And even after a long stretch of time, you'll still eventually reach that burning sensation, but it'll take longer because as it's producing it, it's still being able to dissipate it. That lactate build-up threshold, right?
You want to get the balance. You mean it's a balancing act between how much you're producing and how much you can get out.
Yes.
So it's like filling a jug but emptying it at the same time.
Yes, but the thing is that as you train that, like it's that system in your body is like a muscle anyway, right? As you train that, you can train to push that further. So whatever pace was originally at, 130 beats per minute at that lactate level, lower lactate level, right? You can push that faster, right? And on top of that, when your body is in that zone, right, you burn more fat on your body than carbohydrates. When you're doing high intensity heart rate stuff, right? So we're talking 150, 160 beats per minute above, right? Your body is not only using fat, right, a small percentage, but a large percentage is active carbohydrates that it can pull from the system, right? Which is why you see long and distance endurance athletes, like for example, Eliud Kipchoge, who ran first man to run this sub 2-hour marathon, which is insanity, by the way. If you want to try that out, you got to go to your local gym, set your treadmill to 12.6, and run that for 2 hours. case you're wondering how fast he was running. Right? So, that's why runners use the gels and the goos and the chews, right? Which are just quick, essentially, sugars and easy carbs to continue fueling that high intensity aerobic, exercise. Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay.
So I've been doing a lot of research into that. So that's been a little bit of my, nosedive or obsession of the week as of late. I've also learned that there are world records, and there's like a world record for like Ironman and half Ironman, right? I believe
there's a half Ironman.
Yeah, there's a half Ironman, which is everything I said except half.
Yeah. Okay.
Which also means you get half the time.
Yeah, so you get 9 hours. Okay.
If you watch the professional level half Ironmans when they're going for world records, these people are pushing their bodies so hard that it is 110% common to see the guy in first place cross the finish line, instantly throw up. Or throwing up as he crosses the finish line. Because they're pushing their body to the utmost extent.
I've been there?
Yeah.
I've done that when
when you run?
When I used to run back in school, middle school and high school, I did that. In middle school, I did it a couple times, running, I forgot what they call it, the turkey trot or something. It was.
Yeah. Did you have hot Cheetos beforehand too, just to make it nice and spicy on the way out?
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah, of course you did.
I ate like garbage.
Yeah. Who doesn't eat like garbage when they're
horrible
in high school, middle school,
but I won.
Adolescence.
But I won.
Yeah. At the end of the day, when
I won.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I won, even though I threw up.
I
threw up even though I won.
But yeah, an Ironman is definitely something I want to do, at least complete once.
What you got me thinking is the heart rate. That zone, it's got to be different for everybody.
Yeah, so it depends on your person. So
how would you figure that out? How would you figure out that zone for you?
So let me tell you how they figure it out.
Okay.
It's actually really interesting. So what they have you do is they have you perform an exercise, right? So they'll tell you want your heart rate. You will need to have an active heart rate monitor on you, first of all, right?
So the chest ones.
The chest ones, right? They give you live data. Then you also need to have essentially the blood checker like they do for diabetes, except it's not checking your
blood sugar. It's checking
your lactate levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is just like a different sensor, right? And so what they do is they tell you want to run as fast as you can while keeping your heart rate within this zone, right? This is if you're trying to figure out your zones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they bring you up in 3 levels, right? So you want to keep your heart rate, from 130 or 125 to 140 and go as fast as you can while keeping it there. You do that, you do either a mile or 2 mile, right? Whatever, right? 4 laps around the track. You record your time, your heart rate, on your average heart rate and your ending heart rate, and your lactate level.
Okay.
Right? And then you build up. And you go, okay, now you want to be in this heart rate zone, right?
So they check your lactate at a higher
heart rate. So they step it up. So now they go, okay, now you want to be 145 or 140 to like 160, 165, right? Now you perform this, but you want to be running faster, obviously, right?
Well, yeah.
So you do the same thing.
In order to be in that heart rate, yeah.
Right? So you have to. Yeah, they also time your recovery, how long it takes for your lactate levels to go down, right? Because that's important too. Because that'll also help train for when you do your intervals.
Your recovery.
For your interval and your recovery, because how fast you recover from your lactate buildup, right, can also dictate how fast you can cycle through higher, slower fatigue training, right? So they test that. They record this data now, and they do that. Again at 160. Right, you run, you do your heart rate, your lactate levels, how long it takes you to recover, and then you go again, right, for your 180, your 160 to 180 to 190, right? So, and they do that for each individual sport or event. So you do that for your running, you do that for your cycling, and you do that for your swimming, right? But for your cycling, another thing that's important too is your power output, right? So on cycling, your power output is essentially how much power you're outputting to the bike, right? How much work is being done,
yes,
right? Which is also key right? Because power output, a lot of the time directly correlates to how fast you're going on the bike, right? So that's also important. And so as you do your training, you want to test these things, intermittently, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you get better and faster and stronger, right?
Okay.
And so what you're doing is you're essentially building an anaerobic base, right? A large anaerobic base to build off of that to move up, right? And so as you work out, for example, you keep your zone 2, right? At first it's going to be like walk, run, and then it's going to be jog, then it's going to be, a run, and then you slowly get better. Like you do at lifting a weight, right? Lifting 5 pounds, sometimes it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
You keep lifting 5 pounds, then it becomes slightly easier.
Yeah.
And you lift pounds, it becomes really easy.
It's like a muscle.
It's like a muscle.
Yeah.
Right? Your cardiovascular system is responds to stress similar to any other muscle, right? So that's the best way that we know of as of right now to build your cardiovascular endurance, right?
Okay.
Which is key because you want to keep your heart rate within the zone 2, zone 3 during your race, right? So you want to start the race at like zone 2, right? And then later in the race, because obviously you're fatigued now because you're doing all this, right? You're going to be pushing, and you want to push in that zone 3, which is considered race pace, right?
Okay.
Right? Whereas where you're giving it and it's hard, but it's not so hard that you feel like you're going to, keel over and die. And you're still building up lactic acid, right? And you're still dissipating it. But like normally in a zone 2, you can hold that heart rate for like 8 to 9 hours of work. Something longer for more experienced people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zone 3, for the average person that's trained, it's like, anywhere from 3 to 4. If they're a pro athlete, right, you can get 4 to 8 hours, right? And then that high heart rate, right, like zone 4, zone 5, is the really high intensity stuff, right? That can only be held for really professional athletes for 2 hours,
That's still a lot.
But I mean, it's 2 hours, dude, of your heart pounding in your chest, your muscles burning, like it's right. And also, and all of this is dependent to your how you work,
individual body,
your genetics and the rest of that, right? But
everybody's different. Yes,
it's very interesting. So we're doing a lot of research into that, right? Ironmans are also quite expensive. You're going to be looking to spend on average.
Sounds like you need
probably $6,000.
Seems like you need money saved up to be able to like train properly. You might have to take time off work, or if you have a job, like.
So, from what I heard, like I said in the training, when you train for an Ironman, I hear that you're absent in your life.
Yeah.
That your friends, family, loved ones, significant others, they're not going to see you because it's going to be... You're
basically a professional athlete.
You're going to be wake up, most of the time, if you're working a normal job, a normal 9 to 5 job, right? It's wake up before work, train, go to work, come home, train, eat.
Hey, but how much food can you eat though? Let's imagine that.
Eat. I'm sure you're eating a lot. You're training sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, right? A lot of the days you're doing like three trains. You'll have like, for example, a long bike ride,
mm-hmm.
and then a low intensity run, and your third one is like a yoga stretch, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to stretch with the volume of training that you're doing to participate in this. And you don't train for an Ironman. You don't wake up today and then go, I'm gonna do an Ironman in 2 weeks. No, you'll die.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of people that are very impressed if you do it, and my hat goes off to you. You are part of the 0.1% of the world that can do that. Most people can't. So it's something you have to train for. And I'm talking, some people train years. Minimum training, I hear, is 1 year to 10 months. And that's for a moderately active person, right? So someone that's obese or overweight, it's going to take them years, right, to get into shape to be able to start training, right? Because you can't start that style of training when you're overweight. You need to focus on reducing your body mass.
You need to lose weight.
Because the impact on your knees, your joints, as you're running, cycling, swimming, right? It's all important.
Yeah.
So that's been my current fascination. I know I've already convinced you to say yes to partaking in this onslaught.
I'm in for anything.
Pain. Like we said earlier.
This ain't pain, bro.
Like we said earlier.
This is dying and being reborn.
Like a phoenix?
Like a phoenix.
That's funny. Yeah.
It is
like
something...
I said earlier. All I know is that what I hear is that when you finish the swim, you feel good. You enter the bike ride, and if you train well, you feel good. And then you finish the bike ride, and you realize how dead your legs are. The entire marathon, I hear the entire marathon is just pain and sheer will. Pain, sheer will, and understanding cadence. And knowing your cadence. And rhythm. Right? Because I hear it's brutal, dude.
No, and having the nutrition, dude.
And then having your nutrition down pat.
You need to have that
right
packed because you don't want to cramp up.
Yeah, you cramp up, and too bad you get an injury. It's goodbye, Ironman.
It's game over.
Right? You underprepare. So, like I told you, when we do decide to participate in an Ironman, I'd like to hire a trainer.
Oh no! If I'm doing an Ironman, I'm hiring a trainer. I'm gonna have somebody. I'm gonna have someone
train me. Create a personalized schedule, meal plan. That's gonna check in.
That's what I said.
That has the experience to tell us to look out for this.
We need to make more money.
This.
We need to do more. I'm gonna pay somebody to cook for me.
Yeah. So Ironman is something crazy that I've been looking into. Very similar. Also been doing research into marathons because I know we're going to do marathons soon. So that's also been interesting. Fun fact that those of you that don't know what a marathon is, it's 26.2 miles. But the reason it's called the marathon is in Greece. I believe it was from. I want to say Sparta to Athens. They had a messenger run. And the distance he ran happened to be 26.2 miles. And it took him he ran all day and all night to get there, to deliver the message. I believe that the Persians were attacking. And then he died. So the first man to ever run a marathon died. So please understand that a marathon is not something that you're just meant to do without any preparation.
Here we go. The idea of the modern marathon was inspired by the legend of an ancient Greek messenger who raced from the site of Marathon to Athens.
There you go. From the site of Marathon to Athens.
A distance of about 40 kilometers. Or nearly 25 miles. With the news of an important Greek victory over an invading army of Persians in 490 BC. After making his announcement, the exhausted messenger collapsed and died. To commemorate his dramatic run, the distance of the 1896 Olympic Marathon was set at 40 kilometers.
Which is 26.2 miles.
No. Which is close to 25 miles. The distance was then later changed. Okay. So, for the next few Olympics, the length of the marathon remained close to 25 miles. But at the 1908 Games in London, the course was extended, allegedly to accommodate the British royal family. Reportedly, Queen Alexandria requested that the race start on the lawn of the Windsor Castle so the littlest royals could watch from the window of their nursery, according to some accounts. It's from the History Channel, by the way. Okay. So it's on the History Channel website. And finish in front of the Royal Box at the Olympic Stadium, a distance that happened to be 26.2 miles.
So we have the Royal
26 miles and 385 yards.
So we have the Royal Family
of England to thank.
Of the increase in distance.
Yes. The random boost in mileage ended up sticking. And in 1921, the length of a marathon was formally standardized at 26.2. 42.195 kilometers.
Yeah.
There you go.
So.
Insane.
Now you know. But yeah, marathon running and just endurance.
Just the willpower of this man. And
that's
what the Greek to run that.
What honestly attracts me to the sport. It's the mental fortitude required to continuously tell your body to.
I think we need
to do what you're telling it to do, even though your body is saying
it doesn't want to do it.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Right, and it's that sense of sheer accomplishment.
I don't think
of completing a goal.
It is fortitude, but I think a lot of people confuse fortitude with thinking that you learned the people who have the fortitude to do things that seem daunting or seem exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
Is that they figured out some way so that their body doesn't hurt or it's a little bit easier for them in order to be able to do that.
Or that they ignore the pain?
No. Most people don't think that you ignore the pain. Most people think that you are gifted and so you don't have as much pain as them. Because there's severities of pain, right, between individuals. Yeah. Okay. So what I've come to realize is some people don't take Haiku, the anime, or the manga, really did talk about it really well when they were playing the what was that team? The twins?
Inarizaki?
Yes, Inarizaki. When their captain talked to his other teammates about the geniuses and what it's like. So what they don't understand is that sure, they may have been slightly more gifted than you, but the difference between them and you is that they kept training and they kept working through anything, no matter the pain, no matter how exhausted they were, to push their body to a new limit. Essentially, what I interpret this to, okay, is your body, your whole body is like a muscle. Your willpower, your determination, your muscles, exhaustion, your heart rate, your lactate, everything, your mental fortitude is all like a muscle. And if you train it and you gradually just push it every time, ever so slightly more, your body will adapt to it because your body adapts to survive.
Yeah. So
what people don't realize is that the people who accomplish things, they get used to the shit. They get used to that, sorry for the language, that feeling, they get comfortable with that feeling of being uncomfortable all the time.
They get used to the suck.
Yes, they get used
to suffering.
Yes.
Like we said before.
And they don't do it. Doesn't. Some people think that it just happens overnight. That's what I'm trying to say. Is they think that these people who go through who accomplish these things,
special.
Yes, they think they're born special, and they just don't feel pain like I do. It's not that. They do feel pain. They just slowly train their mind and their willpower to ignore that pain. And actually, to learn.
Hear me out.
To learn.
I do want to tell you something.
Hold on. To learn that the difference between pains. They've suffered so much pain. They know the difference between a pain that's going to injure them and a pain that they can just push through and keep going.
Yes. So I read this article talking about the Tour de France, which is the hardest cycling circuit ever.
Yes.
Right? Fun fact, the Tour de France started as a tourism boom for France. As a
for bikers?
For people to get people to come do this race. To see this race.
Okay.
And then they added the climbs, right? I forget the name of the climb of the Tour de France, the iconic one, but it's the first climb. Because originally it was, it was like, hey, come everyone, come all to the Tour de France and ride around France, relatively beautiful, flat areas. Until this promoter had the idea to add the hills, right? The hills in this Tour de France are now the main attraction, but that is besides the point. They did a study on cyclist psychology, right? And these hills are where the race is won and lost, right?
I found the hills, so people know.
So what's the name of the first hill, the original?
The Col de la Luz. My bad. I meant to pronounce that. Loze. This is an absolutely massive climb. That's number one.
Yes.
Number 2 is Grand Colombier, a classic of the tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
7% incline.
Yes. So
great.
So neither here nor there about the name of the climbs. Just know that the climbs are massive and very difficult. So hard, in fact, that the first climb that was ever done, they had to walk their bicycle up parts of it because they didn't have the bicycle technology of gears and stuff of that to allow them to actually
the efficiency. You mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So they did just a research on cyclist psychology and why they choose this sport, because in the Tour de France specifically, because it is pain. It is just pure pain. Like any other ultra long distance endurance sport, it's just pure pain. But what they found in the psychology of these pro top athletes is that they don't use pain in the same way that a normal person does. So a normal person has pain and their instant response is, let me not think about it. Let me ignore it. Let me push it to the side, right? And that can work only for so long, but not for hours and hours and hours at a time. The pain eventually creeps up and it wins.
Mm-hmm.
So what they've learned is that these cyclists have learned to not ignore the pain.
Embrace it.
But they embrace the pain. Yes. Crazy idea. You're going to be in pain. You're going to be in pain for extraordinary amounts of hours. Might as well be there and embrace it. But they use it as information. They found that they use their pain level to gauge how much power output they have and what kind of information they have. If I'm this far into the race and I feel at this level of suck, that means by the time I get to the end where I need to push, I'm going to have what's left in the tank to make that extra push, right? And so it's not something that's just born overnight. That
takes training.
It takes training.
It takes being in that pain.
That's why in order to run a marathon, you have to run 200 miles. To run 26.2, you got to run 200. Why? Because you need the training. Most people think that these long endurance sports are all about the race, the final day itself. No, that's just the icing cake on top. It's the training. It's the suck. It's everything you do that leads up to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Alex Hormozi said when he was the lead of his fraternity. This is hard. This is what hard that feels like.
Yes, if you can understand...
It sucks.
This is what the suck feels like and accept that, then you can move on away from the it sucks. This sucks. Cool. Move on. Because you have to. And that's how those
most people
extraordinary
use pain,
people...
And then most people avoid pain. They avoid it like the plague.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm saying, because it comes like they don't understand why someone would want to embrace in that. Why would you want to live in that pain for hours on end? Why they don't? Some people don't understand.
They don't understand it because intuitively it's foreign to our brain, because our brain is hardwired to try to avoid things that are painful. We remember when we burn our hand for the first time, we go, ooh, don't touch things that are hot. That's painful. But like we said, there's
a different pain.
There's distinctions to pain.
A burn in your hand pain and a running and my legs are burning pain. Two different pains.
Yes. And that's why we say that the cyclists can use them as information. So they know the difference between the pain of I'm tired because I'm outputting too much energy, or I'm in pain, or, because I have an injury.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So they use that as information, and because they go through so much pain, they have this reservoir of pain information to pull from to understand their body even more intuitively. And I believe what you're trying to say is that the people like the Navy SEALs that endure these crazy things, same thing, different case. they have a large reservoir to pull from of pain as to use as information to know that this isn't me at my limit. This is just me tired because of X, Y, and Z.
It's what David Goggins is saying when he says,
you gotta steel your mind.
You gotta steel your mind. He says, I put myself in more pain to know what my mind is capable of. You gotta pull back those memories. If I did this, I can do this. It's what he's talking about.
Yes.
He has a different way of talking about it, but it is what he's talking about. It is training yourself to understand your pain.
Yes.
Different pains, understand your pain at your limit of the endurance of the event that you're doing, and at the beginning when it first starts. Yeah. Your different levels.
And then another thing is, your pain
tells you your energy level.
Yes. Essentially is what they use it as, to tell you how much you have left in the tank. How farther you can push it. And then people think that pain is just bad. We've had this discussion before, but
yeah, we did an episode on it.
It's physical pain, like getting shot, getting stabbed, things like that. Yeah, it's bad. It's not good for your health, right? But the pain of pushing to strive towards a goal or something that's hard, like an endurance run or a goal, be it in business or whatever, right? And the stress, which is a different form of pain, right? It just is another part of the journey to accomplishing something great, right? Nothing worth having ever came easy. So why should anything else in life be any different? Right? But yeah, pain and long distance running / endurance sports go hand in hand. There's something else you said you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, so I don't know if you've heard about the movie that came out. I want to go see it. I haven't seen it. Mom saw it. Her mom says she saw it already. Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. So it's a movie that Disney had rights to originally. They never released it. They sold it to some other theater or some other entertainment company, right? And they ended up, somehow it got into movie theaters. I don't know the whole story on that. It's essentially about this federal agent who was working for Homeland Security. I think his name was Jim. No. Let me see.
So you're saying it's about a federal agent. Continue.
It's about a federal agent. And he works in Homeland Security or something about child abductions.
Okay.
And the movie's based on true stories.
His name is Jim.
Oh, sorry, Jim.
Yeah. Jim Caviezel?
Quebec? Or
I can't pronounce his last name, but Caviezel, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll say.
Jim. Essentially, the story, from what I've got told, is about a story that... It's the story that got him into his nonprofit, and is more about awareness of how wild and how immense the children trafficking has become. And I'm talking 2-3-year-olds, even babies. He basically quits his job to go rescue the sister of some little boy that he rescued when he was on duty.
Yeah.
Right? Because his wife agreed, and his wife told him.
That it was the right thing to do.
It was the right thing to do. She said it without a hitch. And she told him, and it seemed like his words from an interview he had with Jordan Peterson, you will not sacrifice my salvation to feel safe. Essentially what she told him is, if we have the power to do something about this, if you have the power to do something, then you should go out there and you should do something. Because it doesn't matter if you can't save all of the children, but what you can save should have been saved. And it brings to light so much. And in the interview with Jordan Peterson, which is what I watched, which was what got me really intrigued with it, it was Jordan Peterson, Jim, and the actor who played him in the movie.
Okay.
Which is the same guy who played in Passion of the Christ.
Okay.
Okay. This was about 4 days after the movie came out. And he was already leaving within a few days to Africa to stop what they called a baby factory.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, they abducted women, they would hold them hostage, they would do
unspeakable acts to
them. Make them have babies. Then those babies are born and they're sold into the trade. They solely birth children, humans, to just be the purpose, to be sold off into the sex trade or to be cut up and sold for parts.
That is inhumane.
It's evil. Yes. It is an unspeakable evil.
Mm-hmm.
To do this to children, defenseless,
innocent, have no choice to be brought into this world.
They did not ask for it. Yes,
to just be brought into literal blender.
To be brought to the bottom of the barrel. It is horrible. And to me, what also seems horrible is that it seems like governments only go so far to stop it. But they don't really commit. I would think, let me rephrase that. I thought that if there was anything where governments would collude in helping each other with, right, in more of a enemy is your enemy situation.
Sorry to
interrupt. No, go ahead.
The name I gave you earlier, incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
So the real name, Tim Ballard. That is the name of the man who The Sound of Freedom is based off of. Jim Caviezel is the actor that plays.
Oh, so him we had it backwards.
Yes.
Okay, Tim. And Jim. Okay. So, like I was saying, the one thing that I thought governments would be able to do a temporary peace or work together would have been anything that involves children, innocent children, being abducted. Like if an American children gets taken, abducted, right, and they end up in another country, X country. I'm not going to name country because I don't want to implicate any countries in this, right? X country. I would hope that X country would work with the American government to retrieve said children.
I'm sure they do.
You know what I mean? But I'm sure they do. But I would say
every country.
That's what I'm saying.
Works in the same way as
a
modern democracy.
I understand, but
doesn't matter. You would think that
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying what I would think is that even if it was a king, a royal, an older style government ruling, you would think they would just, because these are innocent children, that they'd be like, no, we will help you find them.
Nope. Unfortunately, the truth is that they don't care.
Some don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, some. It's horrible.
It is. Human trafficking has been something that has, unfortunately, been increasing with our...
It's bigger than the drug trade.
So like I was saying, human trafficking is something that's been increasing with time as our world has gotten more modernized and as it has gotten quicker to get from one place to another.
Also, digital information. It's easier to find targets because people just post pictures of themselves everywhere.
You would think it'd be harder in this age of information. You'd think you'd be safer. But unfortunately, that information is kept and sold and used against you in some ways, like you said, for unspeakable, heinous crimes, and in other ways to advertise to you what the next fad might be, or whatever the next large corporation is trying to get you to buy.
Horrible.
But yeah, in our modernized world, information, your information specifically, has become...
Your digital footprint.
Yeah, has become more important. But yes, I've heard of the movie Sound of Freedom. I first heard about it in your discussion with me. I have yet to do any more research on it. But yes, child abductions. And not just child abductions. Because I feel like, well, yes, child abductions are bad. And they're evil. I feel like they get more attention than just person abductions as well. Which also happens, which is another part of the human trafficking.
It's huge.
It's human trafficking incident. I believe it's somewhere around 2,000 people every year in the United States disappear and go missing without a trace. They disappear.
You want to know a funny fact? Fun fact?
What's up? I don't know how fun it's going to be.
It's not that fun, but it's interesting. Tim, the agent, during the interview with Jordan Peterson said, America is the number one consumer
of
child.
How do they know that?
How do they know part of the Homeland Security, and he...
How do they know that and not shut it down?
So they do, and they try to shut down as much as they can. He said a lot of it, it's hard to trace a lot of it. They know that it is popular because they catch a lot of criminals trying to sell it and aim it directly. Their main market, America. That's how, in that sense, is what he said. And from studies, right? There was something I was going to say.
Well, that fact in itself is
eerie.
Disgusting. I actually could have gone the rest of my life without needing to know that fact. Thank you for sharing that with me and the viewers. I'm sure they will also thank you very well in the comments.
I remember the other thing I was going to say. I'm sure they will. I'm just trying to bring awareness. I feel like
I understand
if human trafficking is if you see something and you can do something in that moment, do something. I'm not. I understand. If you have the power to actually do and say something, I'm not saying put yourself in dangerous situations when you're not trained or
well, that's
anything.
What you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? It's my decision to do what I would do.
Yes,
right?
Yes. I get what you're saying.
Yes.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I know you are. So there's also a big conspiracy with the movie because the movie's been done since like 2007 or something. And it barely got into theaters because it kept getting shot down. And not to be put into the theaters.
Blame production companies for not wanting to endorse a movie like this. It's covering a lot of sensitive subject matter and a lot of sensitive topics and a lot of ugly topics that people don't like to look at, and that when you're a marketing agency, you're not going to really want to promote the fact that there are child trafficking rings, going around XYZ. Not because for awareness, but because it's bad for the bottom line. So I understand. I can't understand how it can be locked in production hell. Do I think that it's right that is the decision being made? No. But do I logically understand how they can write off kind of things to keep it stuck in production hell? Yes, because at the end of the day, a movie's being made for what? It's not being made for awareness. I'm sorry.
Most movies are made to make money. I understand that.
All movies are made to make money. They are a product, and the service is watching the movie and paying to watch the movie. So
what else? The conspiracy is a lot of people it almost gets to theater, gets kicked out by somebody, and a lot of times they didn't know why. They couldn't figure out who did it. It would just get knocked. Mm-hmm. I understand the money aspect of it. I also logically understand that, but I also think as a human being, if we turn the blind eye to evil deeds, then that dark side of the things that we keep turning a blind eye slowly gets bigger.
Well, I think the saying is, if you turn a blind eye to an act, you're just as guilty to the act. Right, and I think that saying comes from the Holocaust, where people would witness their neighbors, torn out of their home and wouldn't do anything about it because they were complacent. And so complacency, unfortunately, is, for lack of a better term, in this specific scenario, when there's something you can do about it and you don't do it, complacency is agreement.
Yes.
Right?
But it's also good to bring awareness because it teaches parents to be a little more aware of the surroundings with their kids.
Okay, I agree. Hear me out. I understand what you're saying. You're a father. I understand that.
Let me.
You can't control everything in life.
No. I'm not saying that you can control everything. I 100% agree with you. There are scenarios that are 100% out of your control. Let me give you a scenario more what I'm talking about. Where a little bit
of an irresponsible parent who shouldn't be a parent.
No, it's not. It's a little of education would have helped. So the story in the movie begins where a father is out with his two kids, a boy and a girl, right? His son and his daughter. They get approached by some person who says that they were looking for children for their movies, and they'd be great kids for this, and that. Bring them to an audition. Gives them a card. And the little girl's bothering her father. Yeah, let's do it, Daddy. I want to do it. We can. And so he goes, okay, let's give it a shot. He takes him to an audition. Up to this point, could be suspicious, but not too bad. Okay, because you can. It does happen, right? Not often.
Okay, but continue. Okay. Continue.
They get there. They take his children in, and they
without him.
Yes, without him, and they say, come back for them at 7:00.
Once again,
parent?
Okay, once again,
why would you leave?
Once again,
but this is.
I'm just saying it's irresponsible parenting.
But it's also ignorance and trust. It's like this.
Irresponsible.
Yes.
So. It's
irresponsible to us because we think of these scenarios.
No, not only that.
But it wasn't another. It was
as a parent. As a person who lives in the modern age, trust is a commodity that is not easily come across, and so you would think that you wouldn't trust random strangers with your children. As such,
oh no, definitely no way, Jose.
I agree that the father in this story, which is based off a real story, made a mistake. Right? I understand he's human. I understand everybody makes mistakes. But still, it's like walking around in the ghetto with a bunch of money falling out of your pockets. You're putting yourself in a bad situation. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but that's knowingly doing that. He
knowingly
left his kids. Yes, but it could have been avoided with some awareness and education. Is what I'm trying to say. Because in this world, there's always going to be people uneducated and trustworthy. Why is it? Why are we? Let's do it. Why are we more aware of these scenarios and more careful?
Because we don't trust people.
It's not just because we don't trust people. Why don't we trust people? We didn't just be born and didn't trust people. We learned not to trust.
Yes.
From our parents and experiences, yes. Not to trust everybody 100%.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It is the awareness that I think we should be put out there more. Yes. Which is what I'm saying, that instead of shooting the movie down more than it should have been played. Who knows how many more people would have been saved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I agree that it should have, and the ideal it should have, and
no, I understand. I'm just giving you my point of view.
No, yeah, I understand. I agree with you, and like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I agree with you wholeheartedly, right? But it doesn't make for an interesting conversation. But I can see why, that isn't done, especially when you come from larger corporations. There comes a lot of distance from the material you're selling to the position that has the power to shoot a movie down like that, or to make decisions of that magnitude, right? And those people, unfortunately, positions of very large power tend to attract people who are, for lack of a better term, not altruistic. They're not. They don't have everybody.
They're in for the power only.
They're not here for everybody to sing Kumbaya and rainbows. They're there for the power, for the status,
and for themselves.
Obviously, that is a hyperbole that we're saying that all of them are. Not everyone's like that.
No,
I'm sure there is a good fair bit that are there, that are hardworking, that are just normal people that didn't know or whatever, right? But there are more people, it feels like, that are of that more non-altruistic sense than there are of people with good intentions. And I don't know if that's a realistic fact or an unfortunate byproduct of our hyper-connected society now, that we only see the bad side of things. Because if you look at the news, I believe the statistic was 80 to 90% of it was bad things that are happening in the world, or bad things that are happening around you. Why? Because unfortunately, the human mind likes to fixate on the bad things. We remember the bad things so vividly, so graphically. The reason being is because it's a survival mechanism. When I ran up to that lion and it bit my arm off, I went, wow, I shouldn't run up to the lions. I'm going to die. And so it hyperfixates on that. And so the positive side of things
sells more,
unfortunately, in current media. And so the positive side of things tend to not see the light of day. So they, a lot of the times, overshadowed. So I'm sure, as you're saying, this movie should have seen the light of day sooner.
We should go see it, by the way.
Yeah. I'm sure there's like there is people out there making a change and doing something about it, right? But it's hard because you can't eradicate all evil.
No.
Which is the hard part in having good and bad.
It's the Abel and Cain. You have your Cain to your Abels.
Whoa, dude. We're not getting biblical
no.
here, dude. But I know what you're saying. You have your yin.
It was the way of saying it.
You have your yin to your yang. Let's.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For every good deed, there's always going to be a bad deed, right? I think I can't remember the philosopher that said this, but this will throw everyone for a trip. Is a good deed really a good deed if it's done with the intention of making yourself feel better? If it's done with that intention, then it inherently is not a good deed and is inherently a selfish deed.
It is a selfish deed masked as a good deed.
Yes, which is thus inherently not a good deed. So, the question it poses is there actually anything that we can call such as a good deed?
I think there is, because I have done things out of just the kindness of my heart.
You can't use yourself. I'm sorry.
Myself.
Listen.
Because I can only talk about my experience.
I'm not asking you to answer the question. I'm just telling you the philosophical fallacy
of
having good and bad things.
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
And having the issue of having
my side.
A non-independent third party to view all deeds behind and know the intention behind what you do, right? Because, like we say, communication is fickle and it's interesting, and we can say we didn't feel any good deed or any remorse,
good,
right? Right, from doing X or Y thing, but the truth is always masked behind what's going on inside your brain. And inherently, what the philosopher was saying was that if you feel good about the deed, you got something in a transactional value from it, it's not inherently good.
So that reminded me of another saying. I don't know if it was a philosopher or not, but it's a saying that if you decide to do a good deed, but it doesn't really hurt you to do the good deed, in a sense, then it's not really a good deed.
So then
an example. The example that came to my mind, so you understand it, because I know I'm not really good with my words sometimes. Okay, and I don't remember quotes 100% all the time. I agree. Pursuit of happiness. Right? When the guy that Will Smith's character is trying to get a job from forgot his wallet and asked him for his $5 to pay for the cab. And it was Will Smith's last $5. Right? But he ends up letting him have the $5. Hesitantly, because it was his last $5. And it hurt him, because that was his no money to eat.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the all true sense of the word, broke.
Mm-hmm.
That, in my eyes, would be a good deed. Because he did not feel comfortable. He did not feel good at the time of doing it.
I get what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying? He was not, even if he was trying to get a job from that man. There was no guarantee that he was going to get the job.
But was it a good deed is the philosophical question that it's posing as? It's impossible to answer, by the way.
No, it is. But
right?
What I'm giving
is it truly good if his intention was to gain will with the guy who could potentially get him a job, which is inherently selfish in nature, right? That is the philosophical
in this scenario, I feel that if you're that broke and you need to eat, you're not going to give up your last dollars for a favor of a maybe with a very, very strong, very low chance of it actually happening. Okay?
I understand. And I'm not trying to
No. I know. This is the conversation that I like.
Yes. Right. I understand that. Because I, if I'm being honest, I agree with you. Right. The philosophy tends to take things in a very literal sense because it's very logical. It's very logical, and there's no room for
the emotional side of it.
And so it takes everything. If you peel the layers back far enough, eventually you can prove that nothing is good or nothing is evil.
I mean, you can point that nothing means anything, as we're in the universe and we're such small in the time scale that we are in not a speck of sand in the beach of the lifespan of the universe, and so intense nothing matters, right? So, but that's peeling it way back to the beginning.
Yes, I agree that that's not the intention of the conversation here.
Yes.
But yes, I do think that good deeds are a real thing. And I do think that the movie Sound of Freedom should have been released sooner. But once again, I'm going to err out on the side of positivity and say the fact that it was released at all
is a good sign.
Should be considered a victory, a small victory.
Oh, no.
Right?
100%.
So, with that, I think we can close off the episode.
Yes.
So, guys, if you're interested in the movie Sound of Freedom and you do want to do your own research, you can go ahead and look it up. We highly recommend you watch the film. Neither of us have watched the film.
Nope.
It's not an endorsement, but it's just something that we believe in that should be known more. So we want to spread awareness for the fact that there is still an abundance of human trafficking that is still a national issue, a world issue equivalent to that of, the drug trade and equivalent to that of global warming. And so while its impacts are very localized and they impact the family and the loved ones of those who are taken, it is still a humanitarian issue that must be tackled by all of us and not just by a select few.
True.
But with that,
guys,
we appreciate your time here.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.